I was one of the laziest people you could ever meet. I didn't want to study, I didn't want to work. I could literally play video games 14 hours a day, and I'd be absolutely fine with that. However, in 2013, I made a complete transformation, and now I work so much that I genuinely have to make a conscious effort to stop myself from working 14, 15 hours a day. If you knew me back then and you knew me now, I'm a completely different person. So this is how I stopped being lazy, and 7 things that you can implement into your own life that can instantly make you more productive. Starting with the 5-minute daily review. Now, this is one of the most powerful things I did that helped me transition from being super lazy to super motivated. It's so simple, it takes so little time, but it's genuinely a game changer. At the end of the day, I'd spend 5 minutes reviewing my day. So what I did well and what I did not so well, and what I can improve for the next day. And this could be in the form of 5 minutes of journaling or 5 minutes of meditation. So every single day, I would make a conscious effort to improve, albeit a seemingly insignificant improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. It's based on this premise that you can't make tomorrow better if you don't understand today. I was watching an interview on YouTube a while ago, and it was Danaher, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and one of the top coaches in the world, and he explained it really well.
Most people live day to day where the events of yesterday have no bearing on the events of today, and the events of today have no bearing on the events of tomorrow. And this means your life will simply run in a flat line until the day you die. But if we make a concerted effort to build one day upon another, even if it's just a very small thing. So on every one of these mundane days, we have to take one small little gem that happened. It may not be very big, something small, and add that to your performance tomorrow.
If you take one small action to become less lazy each day, for example, it could just be to work for 15 minutes extra that day. Over a year or 2 years or 5 years, you'll become exponentially more productive. Immerse yourself with inspiration. This is what triggered my entire self-development journey that changed the course of my life. It all started back in 2013. I traveled to Southeast Asia and I met some incredible people, scientists, pilots, musicians, successful business people, homeless people even. And that's when I learned how important it is to just communicate with people that are inspirational to you, because that's the main thing that triggered the inspiration with me that is still going strong 10 years later. So back in 2013, everyone I knew was pretty much average. It was only until I started to venture outside of my safety net, my existing social circle at the time, it was only then that I was triggered into becoming significantly less lazy and more productive. And then what happened was I started to kind of surround myself with inspirational people through the media that I consumed, right? So I'd replaced listening to music with listening to podcasts. Instead of watching season 10 of Friends for the 6th time, I'd watch a documentary or I'd watch some productivity videos on YouTube. And then I went one step further and I started my own productivity YouTube channel. So starting this YouTube channel is easily one of the best things I've ever done in terms of business, in terms of productivity, in terms of building relationships and networking. I genuinely have no idea where I'd be without this very YouTube channel. And if you're a content creator, you'll probably know exactly what I mean when I say that. Also, if you're a content creator, you'll know all about this video sponsor, Epidemic Sounds. And if you don't, then let me tell you. Epidemic Sounds is a royalty-free soundtrack platform. So I started using Epidemic Sounds for the background music on this channel for the first time probably about 5 or 6 years ago. Pretty much when I started the channel, I tried a few other kind of well-known royalty-free music platforms, but from my experience at least, nothing comes close to the variety and quality of music that Epidemic Sounds has. I love that they have super happy, energetic music like this, and they have emotional and sad music like this. I really like that you can also browse through their music library based on the mood of the song, so it's super easy to find a song that matches the energy of the video. And one of my favorite features, which I only found out about this recently, is that if you find a song that you like, you can click the find similar icon and it will throw up a list of songs that are similar. And just as a cherry on top, Epidemic Sounds gives you a massive library of over 90,000 sound effects. So everything from footsteps to water droplets to thunder and lightning, whatever sound you're looking for, whether it's music or sound effects, you'll find it here. So if you want to check Epidemic Sounds out, you can get a 30-day free trial if you use my link in the description. And I really recommend you do if you're a content creator. I've tried a lot of royalty-free music platforms. Epidemic Sounds, by far, the best in my opinion. So starting a YouTube channel has been an absolute game changer, as has reading books. Right, so I read books like Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography Total Recall, Elon Musk's biography. Obviously, it's virtually impossible to have these kind of all-time greats in our social circle, right? But you can kind of replicate this kind of inspirational effect by consuming their media, by watching their interviews and reading the books that they wrote. And this strategy of kind of surrounding yourself with positive and inspiration and ambition, it's called the immersion technique. And you'll start to realize that, let's say if you're at university, for example, you'll start to study harder because those self-limiting beliefs that you had are now slowly being lifted. And so you'll study harder, and what will happen is because you're more motivated and you're studying harder, you'll get better grades, and that will motivate you even more to study harder because you're seeing the changes, you're seeing the benefits, and so you'll be even more motivated. It's this uphill spiral that you should be aiming to catch. And once you do catch that spiral, it's really quite addictive once you start actually achieving things. It's one of those things where you never really want to go back to your old life. Have the 3 pillars in check. Another way in which I live significantly differently now is that I now have the foundations of a healthy life all set. So the 3 pillars for me: exercise, diet, sleep. I think to get anywhere in life really, to achieve any kind of success, having those 3 elements, exercise, diet and sleep, in check will make things so much easier, right? So I used to wake up at 2 in the afternoon and go to sleep at 6 in the morning. So my sleeping pattern was kind of all over the place. I used to eat a lot of junk food and I never really exercised. I get a lot of people come to me and they ask me, how can I be more productive? It's quite a big question. I could talk all day about how essentially to be less lazy, but they should be starting off with building a strong foundation. So exercising daily, and if not daily, then every other day at least, eating healthily, getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Really, that's where you should start. And once you have a foundation, then you build up from there. Take advantage of your biological peak time. So when I finally understood this, my productivity levels increased quite significantly. I realized that if I don't feel like working, it's not necessarily that I'm being particularly lazy, but often it's just that my energy levels are lower at that time of day. So when I started kind of matching my tasks with my biological peak time, I kind of effortlessly became less lazy. A person's biological peak time is the time that they feel most awake and energized, right? So for me, it's the first couple of hours or the first 4 or 5 hours in the morning and the last 3 or 4 hours before I sleep. Everyone's biological peak time is different. I know some people that always feel terrible in the morning, but they're by far the most productive at nighttime and even into the early hours of the morning. And you need to know when your biological peak time is, because it's extremely difficult to get into a flow state if you are low on energy. And since I have the most energy first thing after waking up, this is when I focus on my most important tasks and get 4 hours of deep work done. So I'm at my most productive, I'm super focused, I get a lot done, and I do this every day. Around lunchtime, my energy levels do drop for a couple of hours, so this is when I do my more shallow tasks, so tasks where I don't need to be super focused. I hold most meetings at this time, reply to kind of YouTube comments, reply to emails, those kind of tasks. But then in the evening at about 4 or 5 p.m, my energy levels increase again, so I go back to deep focused tasks, and that's one of the biggest kind of realizations for me with my own productivity journey over the last year. I've stopped trying to manage my time so much, but instead I now manage my energy levels. Go all in with one thing. I remember watching a Jordan Peterson interview a while back, and he was saying that if you truly want to turn your life around and achieve incredible things, a lot of people make the mistake of chasing too many rabbits at once. As the saying goes, if you chase 2 rabbits, you end up catching none. And this is really important because it's a mistake that a lot of people make. However, if you go all in with striving to achieve just one goal, and you're really kind of devoting your life to achieving that one thing, and all your effort, all your resources are super focused, that is when incredible things can start to happen. So for me, 9 or so years ago, I went all in with business. I learned everything I could about business, how to start one, how to register, about marketing, about finances, business growth, that kind of thing. I would listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, read books. I'd meet as many business-oriented people as I could to just kind of learn as much as I could. And because I only had one goal, I wasn't distracted and I could focus my entire life, I guess, towards that one direction. So for you, it might be that you want to go all out with your studying maybe. Maybe you've made a decision that whatever happens in the next 3 years, you will graduate with a 4.0 GPA. No matter what happens, no matter what obstacles are thrown at you, you will do whatever it takes to reach that goal. And this leads us on to the next point, 10x your life. So this is something that I started implementing a few years ago, but I'll be honest with you, it's still something I need to constantly remind myself about, because being able to kind of remove my own self-limiting beliefs, it's an incredibly powerful thing to do. With my work, am I really having the biggest impact that I can have, or am I thinking too small? And Grant Cardone talks about the 10x rule quite often. He's actually wrote a book about it, which is where whatever your goals are, whatever you're aiming for right now, whether it's your grades, whether it's your finances, whether it's the relationships in your life, maybe it's your physical health, your mental health, whatever your goals are, times those goals by 10, because it's very likely that you're thinking far too small. And I was definitely a victim to that. I was definitely thinking too small for most of my life, and I didn't believe that I was capable of achieving much in life, therefore I didn't even try. And it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so to anyone watching this who is in a similar position to me, where you don't really believe that you're capable of achieving incredible things, I hope this video goes some way into showing you that if I can do it, and there's nothing particularly special about me, and so if I can kind of turn my life around, then so can you. Leave your safety blanket. Over the last 10 years or so, I've realized that the bigger the risks I take, the more rewarding my life is, right? So for the first 20 years of my life, I stayed firmly in my comfort zone. I never really tried new things, new sports, new hobbies, new business ventures. I just went with whatever was easiest. It wasn't until I started taking some level of risk that my life started to really change. In order to achieve success, you can't achieve that by staying in your comfort zone. So, for example, I've never been any good at maths. Throughout high school, maths was one of my weakest subjects, probably my weakest subject. But there was one problem. I wanted to study economics and finance, but my course was extremely maths intensive, so I could have done one of two things. I could have chose a different degree, like business administration or marketing or something like that, involving less maths, or I could bite the bullet and take the risk and just study economics and finance anyway, but double down on my weakness, double down on the maths. And that's exactly what I chose to do. Economics was also a far more kind of demanding and intensive course compared with other subjects like business and marketing. The percentage of people that graduated with a 4.0 GPA in economics was way less than 5%, whereas the 4.0 GPA rate in business and marketing courses were, I think, over 10%. So I could have gone the easier route in so many ways, but I chose not to, and I'm so glad I chose that. I genuinely believe I've grown so much more as a person because my university degree was so difficult. If it was easy, there's no growth in that, right? One of the biggest ways I left my safety blanket, though, was moving from the UK, where I'd lived all my life, and moved to Vietnam, of all countries. I made a video on how it completely shook up my life, but in a very good way. You can click on the card on the screen to watch that. Alternatively, I made another video called I woke up at 4:45 AM for 906 days, and how you can too. Again, you can click on the card on the screen to watch that.